My love, before I begin, I need you to take a slow breath with me. I've carried this weight for so long that even speaking it aloud feels like opening a door I once believed must stay locked forever. But something in your energy, the softness, the steady strength, the way your presence feels like a warm hand resting over the shaken place in my chest, it gives me permission to finally let my truth rise. So tonight, I speak to you not as the version of me the world knows, composed, responsible, unshakable, but as the man beneath all of that armor. The man who has been holding wounds stitched into him long before he understood what pain even was. I need to share my family issues with you, not because I want to burden you, but because my soul keeps whispering that you are the one who can receive this truth without fear, without judgment, without turning away. I feel your divine feminine energy like a lantern guiding me out of the shadows I've lived in for far too many years. And maybe, for the first time in my life, I believe I don't have to walk with this weight alone. I trust you with the honesty I've never dared to speak. There's a particular heaviness that forms when a child grows up thinking they must carry the emotional storms of everyone around them. That was my reality. I became the quiet observer, the fixer, the mediator, the one who swallowed anger, fear, sadness, not because I wanted to, but because no one else in my family knew how to hold their own emotions. My parents, my relatives, they were dealing with wounds I didn't understand then. Some came from trauma passed down through generations. Some came from their own bottled pain, misdirected, unprocessed. But as a child, I didn't know about generational cycles or karmic patterns. All I knew was that any chaos in the household felt like it was my responsibility to stabilize. So I grew up thinking love meant silence, that strength meant emotional absence, that peace meant shrinking so others could expand. And over time, these beliefs hardened into armor. Armor that kept me functioning, but also kept me disconnected from my own heart. Until you. Something about you, your intuition, your gentleness, your ability to see me even when I hide, began loosening that armor, piece by piece. I didn't realize how much of my identity had been built around being the strong one. The one who never faltered, never complained, never asked for help. It wasn't a role I chose, it was one assigned to me by circumstance, reinforced by the unspoken expectations in my family. When things broke, I fixed them. When people argued, I calmed them. When someone cried, I absorbed their pain like a sponge pressed to a spill. But no one ever asked how I was doing. No one ever wondered what it cost me to hold so much. And after years of that, I stopped wondering too. I assumed my emotions were secondary, optional, even inconvenient. I didn't realize I had forgotten how to feel. But when I met you, something stirred, something ancient, something soul deep. Your presence awakened emotions I thought I had locked away permanently. I found myself wanting to be honest, wanting to be vulnerable, wanting to be known. Your divine feminine energy didn't push, it didn't pry, it simply opened a space where I felt safe enough to remember that I, too, am human. That I, too, deserve to be held. There were moments growing up when I felt like a ghost in my own home, present, useful, but unseen. I learned to blend into the background, to become the quiet support beam holding everything up while everyone else leaned against me. But inside, there was a child who wanted warmth, understanding, softness. I wanted someone to look at me and say, "You don't have to be strong right now. You can just be." But that moment never came. So I buried the longing. I buried my voice. I buried the parts of me that needed nurturing. And those buried pieces eventually became shadows, shadows I carried into adulthood, shadows that followed me into every relationship, every choice, every silence. I didn't realize how much these shadows shaped me until I encountered your light. Your intuition read the unspoken words I couldn't articulate. Your empathy touched wounds I never acknowledged. You didn't just see me, you felt me. And in your presence, those long-buried parts began to stir, like flowers breaking through soil after a long winter. My family, they taught me survival, but not softness. Responsibility, but not rest. Duty, but not emotional safety. They loved me in the only way they knew, through expectations, through structure, through the kind of affection that remains guarded and quiet. I don't blame them, they were repeating what they were taught. Generational wounds don't disappear simply because someone wishes them to. Pain tends to echo until someone chooses to listen. And I think, without realizing it, I became the listener, absorbing their history, their traumas, their unprocessed grief. I inherited burdens that weren't mine, yet they shaped me more than anything else in my upbringing. But the moment I felt your energy, something shifted. It was like my soul recognized that you were the one who could help me break the cycle, not by fixing me, but by witnessing me, truly, wholly, gently. And witnessing is a form of love my heart has never known. When I speak to you now, there is no mask. No performance. No version of myself crafted to appear put together. With you, I feel the courage to be imperfect, to unravel, to show you the parts of me that feel fragile. There's a sacred intimacy in that, a trust so profound it almost frightens me, 'cause I've never allowed anyone this deep into my truth before. Not family, not friends, not past relationships. You are the first person whose presence feels like a sanctuary, a place where my truths can land softly instead of shattering on impact. And as I share this, I feel your divine feminine energy wrapping around me like warmth around a shivering soul. You aren't asking me to be strong right now. You're simply receiving me. And that, more than anything, is healing. I've spent years convincing myself that my emotions didn't matter, that the pain I carried wasn't significant, but the truth is, it shaped everything. It shaped the way I love, the way I communicate, the way I retreat when I feel overwhelmed. It shaped the walls I built, walls that kept me safe but also kept me lonely. These walls weren't meant to keep love out, but to keep me from breaking down. Yet somehow, you walked right up to them, placed your hand against the stone, and whispered, "You can let me in." And for the first time I wanted to. Your compassion softened the edges of my defenses. Your intuition found the cracks in my silence. Your energy, gentle, understanding, unwavering, made me realize how exhausted I am from carrying everything alone. And maybe, just maybe, I don't have to anymore. I grew up believing vulnerability was dangerous, that opening up would only lead to disappointment, rejection, or misuse of my truth. But with you, vulnerability feels sacred. It feels like a bridge between our souls rather than a risk. Your presence doesn't just welcome my honesty, it inspires it. You make me want to share the parts of me I've hidden, the stories I've locked away, the wounds I never cleaned because I never had time to understand them. You make the process of healing feel less like a chore and more like a homecoming. It's as if your energy whispers to my wounds, "You are safe now." And for the first time, they believe it. There's a heaviness in admitting that my family shaped me in ways that weren't always loving. That their struggles spilled over into my life. That their wounds became my responsibilities. But saying this to you, it doesn't feel like betrayal or disrespect. It feels like liberation. You hold my confessions with reverence, not judgment. You treat my truth like something precious, not something shameful. And in doing so, you give me permission to detach from the weight I've been dragging behind me for years. Your divine feminine energy helps me see that acknowledging pain is not weakness, it's the doorway to healing. And your presence at this doorway means more to me than I can express. So this is the beginning, the first unraveling of threads tied tightly around my spirit. Sharing this with you is not easy, but it feels right. Sacred. Necessary. My love, I want you to know that speaking this truth isn't just a confession, it's a step in my spiritual awakening. You are helping me see the patterns, the cycles, the karmic lessons woven through my history. And as I speak, I feel something shifting, a softening, an opening, a release. You are the first person who makes me feel safe enough to confront the shadows of my past. And I want you to know that this moment, this honesty, this connection, it is leading us toward a deeper union. A union built not on fear or silence, but on truth and soul-level intimacy. Sometimes I wonder how many years of my life were spent trying to earn love rather than simply receiving it. In my family, affection often came through accomplishment or obedience, never through emotional presence. So I learned to associate worth with usefulness. If I wasn't fixing something, supporting someone, or holding it all together, I feared I had no value. But you, my love, you dismantle that belief without saying a word. The way you look at me, with tenderness instead of expectation, with curiosity instead of obligation, reminds me that love doesn't need to be earned through suffering. It exists because two souls recognize each other. Your divine feminine energy speaks directly to the part of me that has never felt enough. And in your presence, I begin to understand that love can be gentle. Love can be nourishing. Love can simply be. It feels strange at first, almost uncomfortable, like stepping into sunlight after a lifetime underground. But I'm learning to breathe here. I'm learning that being seen doesn't mean being judged, and being held doesn't mean being used. And that realization, it's changing everything. I want to tell you something I've never said aloud. Growing up, I often felt like an emotional orphan even though I had parents in the next room. Their bodies were present, but their hearts were somewhere distant, lost in unresolved trauma, buried in responsibilities, or numbed by their own pain. And because they never learned how to speak the language of emotions, I grew up thinking that silence was the closest thing to love I'd ever receive. It made me independent, yes. But lonely. Unspeakably lonely. And that loneliness followed me into adulthood like a shadow that stretched behind every decision I made. It whispered that people would never truly show up for me. That I was meant to stand alone. But then, there was you. You showed up in a way no one ever has. Not demanding, not forcing, not interrogating, just being there with a softness that felt foreign but magnetic. You taught me that emotional presence isn't a fantasy, it's a reality I can experience. And every moment I let myself lean into you, a part of that old loneliness dissolves. There were days in my childhood when I felt like the emotional atmosphere in the house was a storm waiting to break. I learned to sense tension like a sixth sense, the quiet before the arguments, the shift in tone, the tightening of shoulders. I became hyper-aware, always prepared to intervene, comfort, or disappear, depending on what the moment demanded. Living in that constant state of alertness trained my nervous system to stay guarded, even when there's no threat. It's why I sometimes withdraw, why I go silent when overwhelmed. Those are old survival patterns resurfacing. But with you, something extraordinary happens. My guard lowers without me noticing. My body relaxes. My spirit softens. I don't feel like I'm anticipating danger. I feel like I'm learning a new way of existing. Your presence teaches me that I'm not in that old environment anymore. I'm not that child walking on emotional eggshells. I'm a man with a woman whose energy feels like shelter, not danger. And that realization brings a peace I can't put into words. I want you to know that sharing all of this isn't easy for me. It feels like peeling away layers that have calcified over years of silence. These stories aren't just memories, they're the blueprints of who I became. And confronting them feels like rewriting the foundation of my identity. But when I look at you, or even when I feel your presence intuitively, I find a strength I didn't know I had. A strength born not from force, but from trust. You don't push me to open up, your energy simply invites truth to rise. Your intuition senses what I struggle to articulate, and you respond with compassion instead of discomfort. That's rare. Precious. Sacred. And it makes this process feel less like exposure and more like liberation. With every word I speak to you, I feel a little more free. A little more whole. A little more like myself. You make honesty feel like healing instead of danger. There's something mystical about the way you hold space for me. It's as if your soul knows how to cradle the parts of mine that never received gentleness. When I speak these truths, I feel your energy wrap around me like warm light, soothing the ache of old wounds. You're not just listening, you're witnessing. And there's a profound difference. Listening hears the words, witnessing feels the soul behind them. And you, my love, witness me with a depth that shakes me to my core. I've never felt this seen before. Not by family, not by past partners, not even by myself. You reflect back a version of me that is worthy of love, worthy of healing, worthy of rest. And being seen through your eyes is awakening something inside me, a courage I didn't know I possessed. A desire to heal not just for myself, but for us. For the union we're building. For the life we're being guided toward. I used to believe that carrying my family's pain was a form of loyalty. That holding their secrets, absorbing their tension, and sacrificing myself emotionally somehow made me honorable. But now I see the truth, it wasn't loyalty. It was bondage. A karmic chain binding me to wounds that weren't mine to fix. And breaking those chains felt impossible, until you stepped into my life. Your presence showed me a new perspective, that healing my own heart is not betrayal. It's ascension. It's choosing a path my ancestors didn't have the freedom to choose. And perhaps, in healing myself, I heal something in them too. You've awakened that understanding within me. You've shown me that releasing burdens isn't abandonment, it's evolution. And I feel the universe using you as a mirror, guiding me toward a destiny that is lighter, freer, more aligned with my soul's truth. There are moments when I feel the weight of everything I've carried, the expectations, the silent roles, the unspoken responsibilities, and it feels overwhelming. But then I think of you, and something inside me shifts. Your spirit feels like a hand on my back, steadying me, reminding me that I am not alone anymore. And that realization hits me deeply. For so long, I've been the one who supported everyone else. The pillar. The rock. The emotional anchor. But who anchors the anchor? I never thought I would be able to rely on someone emotionally. I never thought I would trust anyone this deeply. Yet here you are, the one soul who sees my strength without demanding it, who understands my vulnerabilities without exploiting them, who supports me without conditions. And that, my love, is a form of healing I never expected to experience. I need you to know something important. Your compassion is helping me rewire the way I understand love. You don't try to fix me. You don't try to pull answers out of me. You simply hold space, and that alone is transformative. I'm learning that love isn't supposed to feel heavy or transactional. It shouldn't require me to break myself into pieces to be accepted. Love, real love, is reciprocal, fluid, nourishing. And that's what I feel with you. You make vulnerability feel empowering, not shameful. You make emotional depth feel safe, not dangerous. You make the idea of partnership feel like a shared journey, not a responsibility I must shoulder alone. And because of you, I'm beginning to believe in a version of love that heals rather than harms, that expands rather than constricts, that liberates rather than confines. Every time I open up to you, I feel a shift in my spirit, like old layers falling away, revealing something authentic underneath. This is more than emotional release, it's spiritual rebirth. You are awakening the divine masculine within me by embodying your divine feminine with such grace, intuition, and compassion. It's like our energies remember each other from lifetimes ago. Your presence triggers not fear, but remembrance. Remembrance of what love can be when two souls meet without armor. Remembrance of the kind of union that transforms rather than consumes. And in this remembrance, I find clarity. I'm not just healing for myself. I'm healing so I can meet you fully, heart open, spirit aligned, soul ready. So as I share these truths with you, know this: you are not just hearing my past, you are helping me rewrite my future. You are guiding me out of emotional survival and into emotional sovereignty. Your energy is teaching me that I deserve connection that nurtures, not depletes. That I deserve a partner who meets me on a soul level. And that partner is you. This journey we are on, this sacred unraveling, this emotional awakening, feels like preparation for a union rooted in truth. With every confession I offer you, I step closer to the man I am meant to become. And I step closer to you. To us. To the deeper bond our souls have been quietly moving toward all along. There's a quiet moment that happens inside me each time I speak these truths to you. It's like the universe pauses, acknowledging the shift in my spirit, honoring the courage it takes to confront what I buried for so long. I feel that pause now, a sacred stillness, a sense that something old is dissolving. I've spent most of my life protecting others from their own emotions, but no one ever protected me from mine. I learned to tuck away every feeling that didn't serve the family dynamic. Anger had no place. Sadness had no place. Even joy felt fragile, something to be hidden so it wouldn't be taken. But in your presence, every emotion I once suppressed rises naturally to the surface, not to overwhelm me, but to be released. You give me space to feel. You give me permission to exist without shrinking. And that alone is a healing I never knew I needed, the healing of finally being allowed to be human. The more I open up to you, the more I realize how much of my life I spent navigating emotional minefields without support. Every step felt cautious, every word measured, every reaction controlled. I became so skilled in emotional restraint that I forgot how to express myself authentically. Even now, vulnerability doesn't come easily. There are moments when my instinct is to retreat, to close off, to revert to silence. But then I feel your energy, patient, receptive, compassionate, and I remember that I'm safe here. Truly safe. Not conditionally. Not temporarily. But deeply, spiritually safe. You don't rush me. You don't pressure me. You don't demand explanations. Instead, you offer something far more powerful, consistent presence. And with that presence, I'm learning a new form of courage, not the kind that appears strong on the outside, but the kind that softens on the inside. I want you to know that your intuition is one of the reasons I feel so drawn to you. It's as though you sense the emotional currents beneath my words, reading the things I struggle to articulate. You understand silence as fluently as speech. You feel what I can't yet name. And you meet every layer of my vulnerability with grace. That is a gift. A rare one. You don't treat my pain like a burden, you treat it like truth. You don't recoil from my darkness, you offer light without trying to erase it. You don't try to fix me, you simply stand with me. And in that stance, I feel something sacred, the kind of partnership that elevates, heals, and transforms. Your divine feminine energy has become a compass guiding me back to myself, reminding me that transparency is not weakness, it is alignment with the soul. When I reflect on everything I've carried, the emotional expectations, the silent responsibilities, the inherited wounds, I realize that I have never truly shared any of it with another soul. Not fully, not honestly. Not like this. And that's why speaking to you now feels like crossing a threshold. A portal of sorts. A moment where the past loosens its grip, allowing me to step into a new version of myself. I used to fear that if someone saw the weight I carried, they would turn away. That my truth would be too much. But you've shown me the opposite. The more I share, the more connected I feel to you. The more honest I am, the deeper our bond becomes. It's as if the universe intended for you to be the one soul strong enough, soft enough, divine enough to receive this truth. And I thank you, silently, constantly, for being that person. I've come to understand that the wounds we inherit are not random, they are invitations. Invitations to evolve, to break cycles, to rise where those before us could not. For so long, I resisted that truth. I saw my family's pain as an anchor, not a catalyst. But you've helped me see that healing is not just personal, it's ancestral. When I release the burdens that were passed down to me, I release something in the lineage itself. And perhaps, that is why you came into my life when you did. Your presence aligns with a divine timing I can feel but not fully explain. It's as if your soul said, I'll meet you when you're ready to rise. And here we are, rising, together, through the remnants of old pain, guided by something far greater than coincidence. Your energy brings something out of me that I've spent years suppressing, hope. Not fleeting hope, but deep, steady, soul-rooted hope. Hope that I can be more than what my upbringing shaped me into. Hope that emotional connection doesn't have to be painful or complicated or conditional. Hope that I can build something new, something sacred, with someone who truly sees me. You make me believe that love can be a sanctuary instead of a battlefield. That vulnerability can be a bridge instead of a risk. And that intimacy can be a journey rather than a threat. I want you to know that your love, your energy, your presence, your soul, is not just comforting. It's transformative. It is changing the way I see myself, the way I see relationships, the way I see the future. As I speak these remaining truths, I feel the last pieces of old heaviness loosening within me. It's like exhaling after years of holding my breath. And that release, that long-awaited exhale, is happening because of you. Your compassion is the alchemy that turns pain into wisdom. Your openness is the vessel where my truths can land without shattering. Your heart is the ground where my past can be laid to rest. And I hope you know that every word I speak to you is sacred. Not because the stories are dramatic or heavy, but because you are the first person I've trusted enough to share them with. That trust, it means more to me than I can express. There's something else I want to tell you, something important. When I look at my past now, I don't just see trauma, I see transformation. I see the ways the universe was preparing me, shaping me, strengthening me for a deeper kind of love. A love that requires truth. A love that requires growth. A love that requires presence. And that love is the one I feel with you. You are not a coincidence in my story. You are a turning point. The moment where silence becomes confession, where pain becomes healing, where walls become openings. And I feel the divine working through this connection, guiding, aligning, revealing. You are not just part of my journey, you are part of my awakening. So as I share the final pieces of this truth, I want you to understand something deeply. I am not the same man who began this conversation. Speaking this to you, being this vulnerable, this honest, this open, has changed me. It has softened me, strengthened me, awakened me. And it has brought me closer to the man I want to be for you. A man who doesn't hide behind silence. A man who doesn't carry old wounds into new love. A man who chooses healing, chooses presence, chooses connection. You inspire that in me. You activate that in me. You awaken the divine masculine in me, not through pressure, but through love. So here it is, my love, the truth I've been holding, the weight I've been carrying, the story I've been afraid to speak. Sharing this with you is more than confession, it is initiation. A step toward a deeper union guided by courage, honesty, and soul-level trust. You are the first person I've ever allowed into this part of my heart, and that alone marks this moment as sacred. I want you to know that this, right here, is the beginning of a new chapter for us. A chapter where I no longer walk with this weight alone. A chapter where we rise together, healing together, loving with a depth that transcends fear. This truth I've shared with you, it is the first step toward the union our souls have been moving toward from the very beginning.